Hello, everyone. It's Greg Dixon here with Shared Visions, and we're talking to Aideen Ni Riada, and we're talking about voice. So, your voice confidence coach, singing coach, lots of background in singing. Maybe you want to introduce yourself and tell us your connection with the voice.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Greg, for having me here. So what I do is I help you unleash the power of your voice and dissolve the blocks that might be holding you back. Um, what I love is when someone starts to trust themselves, trust their intuition, trust their message, and understand that only you get to be you and only you have the message that you have and express it the way that you express it. And each of us is vital. There's people that want to learn or they want a service, but they might only use that service or they might only be able to learn that from you and they won't look any further. So I believe each of our voices is so important because it's making a change in the world. That's what I believe.
Yeah, that's very, very, very important, and how you express yourself. I was in a choir for years, and it was more of kind of from a spiritual place. It wasn't a technical choir. We
Mm-hmm.
weren't supposed to we weren't supposed to read during our performances. It was just like just the moment and the communication and the expression. So
That's really good because sometimes in choirs it's a little formal, or sometimes they might be more interested in just the perfection of the music. And for me, music or speaking or anything like that is about how it's being received. And sometimes we don't
yes,
ask ourselves, how is this being received? Is anybody really listening? Is this the way that they want to receive it? Sometimes a voice memo is a great thing, but for some people, a text would be better or an email would be better. So we're always being challenged to use our discernment in how we present ourselves. But if we can think about the audience or the person listening and want to do it for them, then we'll put more of our heart and soul into it and be more present as we perform or as we speak.
yeah, present. That's the thing. I think that was the main element. Is it's hard to be present when you've got your head in a lyric sheet. So
Yeah, but you just don't need to try to do it perfectly.
yeah, yeah,
We all make that mistake. Like I know a lot of people say on LinkedIn will be coming from a professional background, but if you go to a networking meeting and you read out your 1 minute elevator pitch word for word, that can actually be very stilted,
yeah. Still,
and may not be received well because it doesn't have a flow to it and it's not of the moment. Like, there are certain things that might be in your heart that day that will be different to your normal elevator pitch. So we need to be present in the moment and learn to say things in a natural way from our heart rather than just going by any kind of a script.
yeah, by any kind of a script. And
Mm.
sometimes it's important to read the situation in the room, like
Yes.
what's important for you in the moment and what's important in the audience. Because sometimes I have a problem describing what I do in a like a elevator speech, right? Because it's not
Yeah.
really simple. And then sometimes I'll just throw something in that seems a little bit random, right? I just inspired to throw that in, and then somebody says, "That's what I need," right? So
Yeah.
you never know, right? So
Yeah. So you're using your instincts to talk about what maybe somebody there might need, but you're not sure. So I think we have to trust ourselves.
yes,
We doubt ourselves way, way, way too much. Like there's too many people holding themselves back, procrastinating, because they just feel like, oh, I'm going to be judged now, or I'm not sure. If you can, like that, you've been successful by just blurting out the thing. Somehow it came, somehow somebody needed that. So now that you can trust that instinct that you had, that intuition that's guiding you.
yeah,
And that can be a really valuable way of communicating from the heart in the moment, trusting your instincts.
Trusting. And I think that's the thing is, I think a lot of people who have trouble with speaking on camera or speaking to groups get very self-conscious about it. And then at some point, most of the people, they get to the point where I'm not going to worry about it anymore. I'm just going to do it because it's not really about me. And like
Yeah.
I sometimes tell the story about Rod Stewart. At some point, he must have looked in the mirror and said, my voice is just pretty damn weird, but I'm just going to go with it. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of singers that don't have great voices. Bob Dylan, Madonna's not known for having an amazing voice, and she did
yeah,
very well with it. Um, we
Neil
can work
Young,
on some of it.
Canadian.
Yeah, yeah, but and as well, it can be the listener. Like one person will love Rod Stewart, and one person will hate him just because they just don't like his type of music or
Yeah,
sound of his voice.
I
So
think I think
there's always someone who wants to hear us. That's the thing. Like,
always
okay,
always
not everyone is going to want to hear you, but someone will.
if someone wants to hear it. I think there's a story about Neil Young when they did that Feed the World, that big thing where all the stars all over the world did the big thing, and I think
Yeah,
he was playing his guitar was out of tune, or somebody else said, "Oh, you should tune your guitar." He says, "Nah, that's my sound, man." Yeah,
yeah. You know,
wasn't too worried about it.
we have to be able to be ourselves. That's what it comes down to. Although, I mean, from a musical perspective, I would always encourage people to tune their guitar.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's at least to get some kind of a start. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
actually going back to Rod Stewart. I don't think he ever. I'm not sure if he's ever sung out of tune ever. He just has an interesting tonal quality to his voice.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, the
Brian
thing with
Adams.
Brian Adams,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
I mean, the great thing about music is it's forgiving. Most people, if they're in listening to a song live, if there's a mistake or two in it, they're not going to even hardly notice that. So,
no.
but nowadays we do so much, there's so much, we listen to so much recorded music. Like we're listening way more to Spotify or to stuff on YouTube
Yeah.
than going to live gigs. And I think the live gigs are actually way better. They're not as perfect, but you get that energy from someone. You get to really
Yeah.
feel them.
Like one of my favorite Southern rock bands is the Marshall Tucker Band,
I haven't
and
heard of
I've
them.
yeah, you probably there are a couple of songs. Well, you're a little bit young, but I mean, there's um, uh, but they have a double album set, and half of them are studio recordings and half are live recordings, and the live ones are just so much better. The energy is different. That the studio recordings sound a little bit clinical compared to the live, and they were like if you were listening to them, they sped up and they slowed down. They were a bit of a loose baggy monster live band, right? But
Yeah.
that's the energy of the thing,
Yeah, and people
and
like that. It's the same with videos, Sometimes you'll be like, okay, I'm going to do a video for my business, and you'll sit there and you'll make sure you look good and you'll have what you want to say written on post-it notes or something, and it just doesn't come out very well. And then you could be like outside on a walk and you'll just talk to your phone for a few seconds,
yeah,
and that's the one that people will relate to better. So try not to be too perfect.
yeah,
It's sometimes just being authentic is way better for connecting with people.
yeah, for sure. Like before COVID-19, I spent quite a bit of time doing those polished videos and things, but it just got to the point where being sincere and authentic is more valuable. And I put you into connection. I don't know if you've been able to talk to Danielle Benson yet, but she's a voice coach, and she has these little labs, right? You show up and says, okay, come up with a topic. You got a minute to think about your topic. Write out 5 things you want to say, but she will you're not to read, like she will
Yeah.
do not read your script, but you can have little notes to remind yourself. And I know a few public speakers, and they'll say, they might write the very first sentence that they say, like if it's a speak to sell thing, and the last thing they say, their close. But the rest, all they really will have is the main ideas they want to cover, and it won't be, they won't be the same. But after they do it all the time, it tends to be the same. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
here I don't know if anybody watching has seen the movie. I think it was called Air, the one about Michael Jordan and the shoes, where
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so there's a story kind of embedded in that movie that's kind of a side note, and it's about one of the main characters meets his friend, and the friend says, "I have the written speech of Martin Luther King, the when he did the I Have a Dream speech."
Yes. Yeah.
And when he comes off stage and he hears this amazing speech and it's like groundbreaking and it's like it's really connecting to the audience, and he looked down at the piece of paper and it wasn't the same speech. And Martin Luther King came out and he's like, "Yeah, you can take that. It's not what I said because I realized I wasn't holding anyone's attention with that." And
Yeah.
but he had done his due diligence. He had written something out. But yeah, read the room. That's the key, isn't it?
And read the room. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I have,
doing a little prep work is good, but don't try to stick too closely to it. Like, because then you could be in the middle of it and be like, you could have gone on a tangent. That happens a lot with me with podcasting. So I'll be speaking to someone. We've mentioned something before we came on that I thought, oh my God, we better talk about that. But the tangent takes us a different direction. I can't get back to the original idea, and you just have to go with it.
yeah, you have to go. Like sometimes you just don't get there. You have an intention to go, but the conversation goes in a different direction. And sometimes I have a collaboration we call total traffic and conversion, and sometimes we have an elaborate mission, but sometimes it's sort of like at Friday morning. It says, "Well, what are you going to talk about?" And one of us will come up with a topic, and then I might do some headings. If I really want to go through, I'll use it with StreamYard, and I'll put like these banners here. Like I put your title up here, right?
Yeah.
And but I could have something. Uh, Oh, okay, I don't know. Yeah, let's say this is completely out of that, but some little reminder, and I'll just put it up there, and then say, okay, well, that's where we're going to go. And so yeah, like just to make sure because if we have three things we want to say before we stop, that's one way of doing it. But I got on with a really interesting woman talking about real estate. We started the camera. Normally you go for about 20 minutes, but after an hour and 40 minutes, we just looked at, I guess we should probably stop now. So I think we could probably talk for another couple hours. So
Yeah,
yeah,
things happen in the moment. Um, I've just written my first little ebook, and it's about valuing yourself. And I talk about being in the moment, because if you can't be present to who you are and can't be present in the moment, you're not going to be able to relate from the deepest, truest part of yourselves. And when you're in the moment with another person, you're in the flow. You're having a great conversation. You're not thinking. It's really good. It's really fun. But a lot of the time, we're looking through our own insecurities at the moment. We're self-conscious within the moment, and that's really important to learn to let go of, to understand that you're enough in any moment to just be in a conversation, to just talk about whatever it is you're talking about, and that somebody sometime will find that valuable. So you are enough. Anybody who's listening, you are enough in this moment. But we're all challenged by this idea of what's going to happen next, and sometimes we have to pivot. It could be the same in our business. You think you're going to go one direction, but then something changes, and being flexible in the moment is what can keep the boat afloat, even when things seem like they're going a bit sideways.
going sideways. It's all good.
It's all good. Sideways is okay.
Yeah. It's funny. I've taken on a mission here. I'm in a little town called Merritt, British Columbia. Has a population of about 7,000 people. But there's some really interesting. There's some families here. It came from the Basque region of Spain 55 years ago, and they're still here. So I've been talking to people how they ended up here. Why didn't they leave?
Yeah.
And anyway, the mayor, he knows he's on the list, but I'm going to go talk to him. But one time he said the last thing he ever thought he would ever be would be a mayor, right? And he was sitting with his friends and doing what many of us do, and he was whining about stuff, right? And And one of his friends just looked at me, why don't you just shut up and get involved and make a difference? You're not helping anybody by complaining about it to me. So anyway, that was the last thing he ever thought he was doing. Now he's the mayor of a town, and yeah,
This is it. Most people in business are solving a problem that they needed solved at one point.
yeah,
If I look back at when I taught singing a lot, I struggled to have confidence when I sang. I struggled to promote myself as a singer. I struggled to believe in myself. And that's really what my business was about when I started, was helping people to believe in themselves. And it's evolved to be a broader kind of voice now. It's not just about singing voice, but it's because I had that problem myself. And, the mayor had his problem, and he stepped into, I'm going to start solving the problem that I see. And so if you don't know what business you want to do, ask yourself, what's the problem you see? What's the problem you think you could
yeah,
solve if you gave it some time? And that can lead you down a really valuable and interesting path.
yeah. No, it can be, because there's not really a shortage of problems to solve.
That's
So
the truth.
lots of things. Anyway, the other person I introduced you to, and you haven't talked to yet, is Julie Blue, and she had a choir called the Inspiration Singers that I was in. I asked her one time at a party, says, well, do you give singing lessons? Oh no, I just joined the choir. So 12 years later, I was still in the choir. But she wrote a song called "Believe in Yourself," and I sang it in a concert with a friend, and I didn't do a stellar job of it, but I got through the end anyway. But anyway, that's all. This whole song is about that, right?
Yeah.
Just
But when
believing in
you
yourself.
sing about believing in yourself, Greg, you're bringing your understanding of what believing in yourself is.
Yeah,
So your version of that song has value because it's your experiences that helped you to believe in yourself. And, I remember a young girl in her early 20s singing a jazz song called Don't Explain, which is about someone who's been jilted by her husband, or the husband had another affair or something. And I was like, God, this doesn't fit her. But when we have a song that fits us, and we have a business that fits us, when we have a mission that fits us,
yeah,
then it makes sense to everyone, and people know, they feel you. They like that then, and they'll want to hear you sing that song again.
yeah. No, it's great. And music has been part of my life, most of my life. I haven't always been singing. I grew up in a family where the family figured we were genetically incapable of singing. So
Yeah, it can happen. I had a client, and her mother was a choir director, and because her children didn't sing well from birth, she thought they couldn't sing, when it was actually, a lot of people think that singing is just a gift, or a talent. But actually,
yeah,
if you're surrounded by music and you're encouraged to sing as a young child, you figure it out and you get better and better with a little bit of direction sometimes. But you
yeah.
have to listen to be able to sing well. Like, I would
That's it
say
is,
a lot of people don't do the listening part, and that's why they don't sing very well. And you have to
because they're
test your
self-conscious.
voice.
Yeah,
What?
that's
Yeah,
a presence thing, right?
yeah,
If somebody said if you're playing in a big church choir with the organ going, it says you can't sing out of tune, so because it's your whole body's vibrating with that,
yeah.
you're just present, you're immersed in the whole thing. Um, yeah, I was going to say something. Anyway, one of the things that Julie said is a lot of people are natural singers, but like they said, she should go in and talk to kindergarten kids, right, or grade one. How many people sing? Everybody puts their hands up. By the time they're 18, nobody puts their hands up. It's been criticized out of them
Yeah.
that they can sing, and
I
we
remember
have young.
a similar story. A mother says to her daughter, "My friend is going to drawing classes," and the kid says, "When did she forget how to draw?" Yeah, no, it's true. When we're kids, we see ourselves as everything. We identify in a certain way, and that's when our identity is changed, and we're told we're not a singer, or we're told we're not a speaker, we're told we don't have business ability, and we take that on. That can be seriously limiting. Sorry for
Yeah,
interrupting. Go ahead with the rest of your
no,
story.
no, no, it's okay. Yeah, family and friends are not always the best people to ask about anything, right? So
Yeah.
Like I had a number of friends who basically told me I shouldn't sing in public, though
Yeah.
I've been invited 3 times to be the gift of music at churches. I'm not even a church person. I've been invited, so I must be doing something that they appeals to them. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like, I mean, I think having been in the choir for those years, your ability has changed. Singing isn't
yeah,
just a God-given talent, it's a skill. And just like running a business is a skill, just like
yeah.
speaking in public is a skill. Someone might tell you, oh gosh, don't give up your day job, because you don't do it well once. That doesn't mean you're always going to be bad at it.
So I don't know if you heard the story. Elvis Presley was invited to be on the Grand Ole Opry
Hmm.
when he was probably fairly young. Anyway, he got up and he sang a song, and the MC of the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville asked him. He says, "Oh, so, yeah, son, do you have a job, a day job?" He says, "Oh, yes, sir. I drive truck." And the guy says, "Well, you should probably continue driving truck because I don't think you have a career in music." The same
Yeah.
guy said something to Garth Brooks too, that he should stay home and stay home in Oklahoma and never bother following music. So not really a good judge of talent, really. So
Well, look, talent judging that is difficult, right? Because it really comes down to what does that person want to do with their time? What are they willing to invest in getting better? What do
yeah,
they feel drawn to? Because,
yeah,
somebody could stand up on that stage and sing better than anyone else, but they prefer numbers and they want to become an accountant. So
yeah,
they'll
for
get good
sure.
at that. But the person who stands up on the stage and is willing to do that over and over and over and over again, and to hone their skills and to hone their craft, then they can really do it. There is that book about the 10,000 hours. Have you heard of
Yeah,
that
yeah,
concept? So they found that, if you're learning music, for instance, some kids will be naturally quite quick to pick things up and seem talented in the first phase. But if other kids who weren't as good at the beginning stayed on track and did 10,000 hours of
yeah.
their instrument, that they ended up at the same skill level. So talent isn't all the
You
main
know,
thing to look at, really.
and sometimes it can be hold you back if something's really easy, right? That something comes very naturally. They don't put the time in, put the work in.
Yeah, yeah.
So I briefly mentioned Brian Adams. A friend of mine wrote a book called Rocket Norton Lost in Space about sex, drugs, and rock and roll in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And anyway, in
Hmm.
the book, he talks about Brian Adams when Brian Adams was a teenager and Sarah McLachlan. So the two of them just kept on hanging out. They would go to the studio and they'd hang out, go to the concerts, and they kept on saying, "What do I need to do in this business to be successful? What do I need to do?" Both of them learned they way exceeded their teachers. They became the masters themselves, right? But
Yeah, yeah. And
Brian
it's
Adams' story, yeah, he just sort of said he just wanted to play in better bars. That was his goal.
Yeah, keep doing the work in the trenches, and eventually you get to the other side, and you come up the ranks, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was watching. I spent 1984 and part of 1985 in England, and they had the Princess Trust there. I think they call it something different now. The big concert, and
Hmm.
they had Elton John, Paul McCartney, Eric Clapton, Phil Collins, and Brian Adams on stage all together. And I said, "Okay, that that you don't get a bigger bar than that, really."
Absolutely. And that's really in his mind, it's just another audience. It's not like,
Yeah, it's
don't
just
make it
another
into
audience.
something much, much bigger. Look,
Yeah,
none of us really knows what we're capable of, but the thing that will come true for you is the thing you stick at, you know.
yeah.
So I mean, I have aspirations to do more performing myself, but I keep getting dragged back into working in my business and, earning money. So, but if I keep going even somewhat with with what I'm interested in, it doesn't have to be every single day of the week, but if I do something most weeks towards writing music or towards my next recording, something will happen. So we just need to find ways to build our goals into our daily lives so that we don't drop the ball on something that's really important to us.
So what is your day gig at the moment? What is your business?
So I call myself an intuitive voice coach. What's been happening is it's evolving. That I've always worked with people around self-belief and self-value. And once they believed in themselves, they would be able to sing with the right training. I've trained the voice as well, so I can help people who don't like the sound of their voice. But my favorite thing to do is to help people to have the confidence to speak up in situations where they feel their contribution isn't being valued. Because I think that in situations in work, or it could be running your own business, where you feel like nobody's really listening. So what's the point? And it can be very frustrating. So I help people to find their voice and what they want to say and be able to say it even when they don't know who's listening.
I guess that I'm not choking. I can unmute myself again.
There's a
There we
lot
go.
to be
Just
said. There's a lot to be said for this idea of unmuting yourself. Like sometimes we feel like we need to be invited to speak. We need to put our hand up and ask the teacher, is it my turn? But really, most of the time, there's a space for you somewhere to talk about what you want to do, like that. Ask the other musicians, ask the other business owners, go to networking meetings and get in the game, get into the game and start testing your ideas on people and talking about it. And things can happen quite quickly sometimes we just meet the right people, at the right time, and things can change quickly. So don't give up is what I'd say.
yeah,
Never ever give up.
yeah, yeah. So I've got the website here. Confidence Singing. Is that the main one you would like to show?
Yeah, Confidence in Singing is my website. Also, my name, aideenniriada.com, is the other way. I'm starting to use that more because I'm doing less with actual singing and more with the voice in general. So aideenniriada.com or in confidenceinsinging.com. And
Okay.
you'll find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and places like that. So yeah, and I love talking to people. So I do offer a free consultation, a free chat, and really happy for people to contact me and get on a call with me.
Okay. Let's talk a bit more about you said you wanted to get back and do more writing and singing on weekends or whatever. So what does that look like
Yes,
for you?
you know, no matter how much you do of something, you're probably going to hit a certain point where you start to doubt yourself again. So I just recently brought a book about songwriting that I keep planning to do. It's basically gives you little writing exercises to do every day. And my husband and I, like around Christmas, we were like, yeah, we'll do it, and then we didn't do it. Like nobody's immune to getting distracted. But that's my thing that I'd like to do now is do more writing. This book, what's it called? Singing Without Boundaries.
Oh,
It was
okay. Yeah.
yeah, it was recommended to me by Rochelle Babler, who is a singer herself, based down in I think San Diego, and she helps people write songs for causes. So she helps people use songs to advocate for charities and health issues and stuff like that. So she recommended that book. So that's on my list of things to do.
Right. Yeah.
I only recorded really one song last year, and it was a cover song for my grandmother. It's called Hold Me Now by Johnny Logan. It was a Eurovision Song Contest winner, though Johnny Logan's not very, very well known in the US. He's very well known in Europe. And so I've really enjoyed, recording that song. And Mike and I are working on a song called either Mystic Frozen Light or just Frozen Light, and the melody and everything is gorgeous. And I've been tasked with finishing the words, and I'm procrastinating on that. So guilty as charged. We're all doing it to some degree. So that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to finish Frozen Light and like to
Okay.
get that recorded in the next maybe 2 months or so. And once we do that, my husband is amazing he's a composer, but he also loves filmmaking. So he has helped me create amazing music videos. And so that'll be really fun to create another music
That'll
video
be fun.
soon. Yeah.
That'd be great. So I'm doing Merit Stories and interviewed Richard Lipinski, and he originally came from Winnipeg, Manitoba, went to uh, Victoria, and then ended up in Merritt. But he runs the Merritt ukulele um, circle, which I have to go back and spell ukulele properly. But muck, because they like mucking around. But he set himself a mission to write and record and publish one song a month.
Yeah,
So,
it's a
yeah, so
great
it's kind of,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah. And like, look, it took Leonard Cohen 5 years to get Hallelujah finished, and I think he's still revising the lyrics. So, it's
I'm pretty sure. Do you think you've heard all of this lyrics he had in your lifetime?
I really enjoyed the documentary about Hallelujah on Netflix, and it's a really interesting one if you love music, because it kind of shows the evolution of those lyrics. And when it was used in Shrek, they had to take out all the kind of the less PG content, and so yeah, songs can evolve. We can change songs. Actually, what if you like singing, but you don't like the lyrics of something? Make up your own lyrics, like, or
Oh, for sure.
change the way it sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, have
Um,
fun with that too.
I spent a lot of time shooting video of musical improv groups, right?
Yeah,
They just make it up on the
cool.
fly. It's just as pure genius, really,
I went
sometimes.
to I went to something like that in London. It was a musical. It was an improvised musical, and
Yeah.
they had a whole storyline about going to stay in a caravan park or something. And yeah, it was hilarious. So that must be a lot of fun, Greg.
Yeah, no, it was. And there was one, they were in the middle of something and somebody had dropped a wine glass and broke it. Yeah, it was in a church, but it could have been anywhere really. And it's just, the person is using the middle line, and some people are drinking. What were they thinking? you know, and
That's the
that business about being present. When I was in the choir, we wrote a song, like a group song, and we each had
Mhm.
like a little section. And my friend Margaret, um, it was the theme of it was it about letting go. And anyway, we got up in the concert, and the words completely fell out of her head, right? And she just went, letting go. It was just perfect, right? Right in the moment. It's just, forgot all the words, but there we go.
Yes, look, improvising is a great thing to do, because if you do an improvised class, the key is that you respond to what the person who's talking to you says,
Yeah,
and you don't block what they do. So you flow with what they do. You can say, if they go, I want to kill you, you can say, well, yes, but I want to make love to you, so you can change it,
yeah,
but you can't block what they want to do entirely.
no,
And that's what being in the moment is about. It's about really being with what's really here, and like that, being able to have faith that humming is enough right now in this song. Making up the words is enough. Making up what you do say next, like, I don't know if I'm doing everything perfectly in my business. I think that I have a list of 10 other things I could be doing right now, Greg, even.
yeah,
But
probably. Yeah,
I'm here, so I've just got to
yeah,
be
yeah.
here.
Yeah. So I've read a lot of songwriting books, and I read uh, about people's craft, about how they write songs. And
Mhm.
David Bowie, and I forget his writing partner. And anyway, their thing was, um, if something was a massive hit for themselves, like they made a lot, it was a number one hit. Says note to
Mhm.
self, never do that again. So they deliberately tried never ever to repeat themselves. So
Great. Yeah, well, we
yeah,
know that from watching too many movies. Like you have, I mean, Back to the Future 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like if you do things too similarly each time, I think it's called the law of diminishing marginal returns. I studied economics when I was in
yeah,
secondary
there we
school,
go.
so
Yeah,
I remember that. If you eat a Mars bar, it'll taste great. If you eat 20 Mars bars, the last one won't taste as good as the first one. So
no,
yeah,
that's true. There's
changes.
some kind of, it has to be fresh. And David
Yeah.
Bowie, people would claim that his music was so odd that it was unrecognizable, and then he would also get claims that it was just um, so uh, typical of the sound. Like if it was a disco song, so he had
Mhm.
a talent, and Cher was like that too. She could pick out whatever the prevailing whether it was country stuff or disco or whatever it is, so you could take those elements, and that's where people would say it was kind of derivative of somebody else because it did have elements of other things. But then there was this unique thing that made it completely different, that completely their own. And so they pretty good. Both of them were pretty good at skating that line between fitting in
Orig-
with what the
yeah,
current styles are and then also being unique. Because if it's totally
yeah.
unique, you won't recognize it as music at all.
Yeah, I mean, we all want to be original, but like we're all borrowing from different things. Like, say, I mean, there are other voice coaches, right?
Yeah.
So I do things similar to a lot of those voice coaches. I have maybe similar training. I was just talking to one who I'm going to have on my podcast soon, and we had an amazing chat because we have so much in common. But that doesn't mean that I don't have a place as a voice coach because she does
Yeah.
something so similar. And every song, you could, if everyone in the world sang exactly the same song their whole lives, they would sing it each slightly differently. So yeah, I think it's important not to follow someone's method too closely. Like, the way they, people write these posts now and they're kind of structured in a certain way and it kind of seems very rigid, or everybody's doing something similar. Like, let your own creativity work with anything that you're working with. Like, try to infuse yourself into it. But we don't have to start from scratch either. We can take what
No.
someone else has done and evolve it. That's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's on the like contests like The Voice. Often, if they're doing a cover song, they want it to be recognizable, but for people to make it their own expression.
Yeah, and
And
if you're a performer, it actually can be really, really good if you sing a lot of originals to start your set with one or two covers that people recognize, because then they get on your side. They're like, oh yeah, she likes so and so, or I love that song, and they put their own spin on it. So we need to get people on our side. So giving them what is more normal and then evolving it can work really, really
yeah,
well.
and I went to see it was Sheryl Crow, Sarah McLachlan, and Neil Young play in West Vancouver. It was fabulous. But Neil
Ah,
Young, I don't think Neil Young spends any time at all thinking about what the audience wants to hear, right? Because he would just pull out the songs that he wanted to play, and some of them were, pretty obscure. Just because he had a massive hit, he wasn't going to necessarily play it. But that was that made it kind of fresh. And I don't know if you've ever tried to figure out a Neil Young song. If you ever hear them explain what they mean, they're not about what you think they are.
yeah, that's a good thing too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Look,
like long.
we have to do what we feel on the night,
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
sometimes as well, you could have a set list or you could have a plan for a talk, but in the moment, you feel like, oh, I want to take it somewhere else, and that's it. Especially someone like Neil Young, who's already paid his dues in a way, and he has a following. Yes, of course, he can do that. But if you go to an artist and they only play brand new songs, it can be hard to
yeah.
relate to
Hard
them.
to.
It's
Yeah,
like songs depend on repetition. Like if a song has a lot of repetition
yeah,
within it, we start to like it by the end. That's why jazz music is hard sometimes to really love straight away, because we can't hear the repetition. So
yeah,
if a song is already a hit and it's been on the radio, people will love it even more when they're the in a live gig. That comes, I mean, repetition is so important for marketing, right? We got to say the same thing a few times before
sure.
people kind of buy into it. But that's interesting what you said about Neil Young. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
he's got artistic license. He can do that. He can play whatever he wants.
you can play, and they're all great tunes. But it's some of them are it's oh, there's a song that he wrote called "Every Man Needs a Maid," right? And it
Hmm.
sounds pretty bizarre, but he's got a full symphony orchestration and stuff. So it was pretty serious to him at the time, you know, like, yeah. So, and there's a song called Long May You Run,
Yeah,
right? Anyway, it's about his car.
yeah,
Yeah, it's not obvious because he had this old 1960 hearse that broke down somewhere in Ontario and he really missed it. But he wrote a song about it.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Oh,
I went to see a guy, John Spillane is an Irish singer, and
okay.
he's really good. Look him up. He's really fun, right? But he wrote quite humorous songs. So he wrote a song about the cashier at a local, like Dunnes Stores, which is a bit like a Target, or
Yeah.
it's one of these like lower, reasonable priced, department store. And basically how he was in love with the girl from Dunn's, and she never looked twice at him, and it's hilarious. So there's a place for humor in songs, and sometimes
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think it's maybe underused at the moment
Yeah.
in music. I don't hear a lot of popular songs, but it is harder for songs to get popular these days with the way radio and TV and we listen to music quite differently now. So it's
Yeah,
harder to make an impact with a song.
it is. So there's a Canadian band called the Bare Naked Ladies. And if you
Hmm.
ever watch the Bang Theory, that's the theme song. So that one television series has probably made their career. But they've got a lot of funny songs,
Yeah.
and yeah,
That's cool. I actually haven't listened to much of their music, but we were talking about the Big Bang Theory the other day. My mother-in-law was saying someone had made millions from this show, and it turns out that one of our neighbors is the aunt of one of the actors, um, the guy who had the beautiful girlfriend with the
yeah,
short hair. Anyway, I don't know all the
yeah,
actors,
Leonard.
but Leonard, yeah. So I
Yeah,
basically am like only 1 or 2 degrees away from Leonard, so that's my claim to fame today.
yeah, there we go. It's kind of funny. I never watched it. I think it might have been actually off the air, like they finished filming it before I started watching it. And
Yeah,
my brother never watched it either, but we got hooked on it. We go, nothing else will go to the Big Bang Theory, and it doesn't even matter. We can watch an episode and then an hour later watch the same one again. It's just like pure genius. And if it wasn't so funny, I think some of the stuff they said, like it's like kind of like Shakespeare, right? If you actually understood what he was saying, is some of that stuff is pretty pretty explicit and foul, except we just don't quite get it because we don't get the language. But there's lots of comments like I think it would be, you take some of those comments out of line, it'd be racist and sexist and all sorts of stuff on the Big Bang Theory, but they can get away with it because it's so
because it's
clever
because
and
it's comedy, right?
that's comedy, right? But it's just,
Yeah.
but it's amazing. Like it's just everyone's got their own strength.
Yeah, yeah.
And
There's a place. There's a place for all of us. There's a place for The Big Bang Theory, and there's a place for West Wing, and there's a place for
yeah,
a James Bond movie. Look, not everybody wants to hear what you have to say. Like my family weren't all that encouraging to me when I said I wanted to do singing. They didn't see it. But then I have people that love what I do and want to listen to it over and over again. We have to be patient with that. We don't always find the people who want to hear us straight away. Like your best pals were telling you not to do any more singing, and now you get opportunities that only someone who can sing would you normally get. So life can surprise us. So keep doing what you love. That's my
yeah.
advice.
So I think it was Jennifer Aniston. I saw a little thing on probably Facebook Reel or something, and I think it was an excerpt she was doing, maybe talking at a high school or something like that.
Hmm.
And somebody in school or somebody in her family told her, said, "Oh, you don't really have anything to offer to the world. You don't have anything to say." And she probably believed that until about the second season of Friends and says, "Wait a minute, those guys are
Yeah,
wrong." You know?
yeah,
Yeah. But it's those little voices really can do a lot of damage.
yeah. I'm always quite careful. Like never take advice from someone you don't respect, and
Yeah.
don't take advice from someone who doesn't know anything about it. Like, I mean, if someone says, "Oh, you can't sing," but they're not a singing teacher or they're not a coach, like a singing teacher or coach would never tell you outright, "Oh, you just can't sing." They would say you have a lot of work to do, or they'd say you need
Yeah.
to do your warm ups every day, or they'd help you. If they're kind at all, they will help you know what's the next step for
Yeah.
you if you don't have that skill yet. So be careful who you take advice from, and it's our friends and family don't get it usually.
No.
I think that's one of the things that why we have the family we have is because we're different to everybody else and we have to learn to get along somehow. And then
Yeah.
we all go off on different directions. I mean, I'm the eldest of 5 kids. We're all doing different things. One of the great things is we all respect each other, but we don't get each other. Like we'd love to butt in and say, oh, you should do this or you should do that, but we don't do that because our parents never did. They had I would call it a laissez-faire parenting style. They let you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So now we have it like that, to each his own, live and let live. You figure it out as you go, and that's okay.
I think that's all any of us are doing. Everybody's got a unique life. We've never been here before. And I think the whole thing is to be in the moment, be present, be creative, so what that means, what it means today might be different tomorrow, but just enjoy the ride. And a few people have said that we get thrown into families to kind of provide lessons, right? Some people will say we chose to be in that abusive family or whatever it was, but it's all a learning experience, and it sounds like yours was actually pretty good. Your parents were pretty, let
Yeah.
everybody be yourself. So
Yeah, I mean, I felt ignored sometimes. I felt like I would speak up and everyone would ignore me because I was a bit of a, this is how I'd like things to be. I didn't get encouragement to do things that I would have liked to have gotten encouragement for. We can pick apart our childhoods. I'm sure we could all do that. But
yeah,
when it comes down to it, we all respect each other. And I get along better with my parents now than I did. Um,
yeah.
I had a really idyllic childhood up until the age of about 11. And then my mom was sick. Look, let's not do the therapy session right now, Greg. but we'll do
That's
that.
for another
Let's do that later.
episode.
Overall, I had a great childhood. I was precocious and probably a bit of a troublemaker. But I got to do a lot I got to travel in my teens. A lot of kids don't get to do. I was in Italy, I was in Germany. So yeah, life was good. And
That was
whatever
good. Yeah.
lessons I had, I needed them. The biggest lesson I learned as a child was how to share because I had
How
four
to
younger
share.
siblings. Yeah,
How to share. Yeah,
how
having a
to
bunch of
share.
siblings helps with that
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Do you have a big family, Greg?
Well, I have two older brothers. They're 11 and 13 years older. I'm staying with Doug, who's 13 years older than I am. And then I have a sister who's about 2 years younger. So it's like this 11-year gap in between. And almost in a way, my sister said to my oldest brother, says, well, I don't remember you at all as a child because my brother had left the house when my sister was about 3. So she doesn't ever remember living in the same house. So it's
Yeah.
almost like we get to be adults, and then you get to know each other being adults, right?
Yeah.
My
I mean,
my
if
sister and
you're,
I used to bug each other until we were adults.
we had a lot of fights. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, life lessons. Let's take that piece of advice from you, Greg, that it's all something to move on from, learn from. And I think
Yeah,
sometimes we're learning how to be ourselves, even when no one else gets it.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, you don't really need to impress anybody else. So,
Yeah.
or you don't have. We're not really responsible for everybody else, and we're not really responsible for how they see us necessarily. So, but I think the more sincere you are and we are, the more people see, and it's just better that way. It's hard work trying to put up a false front.
That's it. It's less effort to be
Yeah,
authentic and just be you. And sometimes being you might mean having a bad day or might mean saying that you're upset with someone. But I think it's important to be real. So yeah, just that lesson of stay as present as you can and be yourself. Everyone else is taken, as they say.
everybody else is taken. Yeah, yes. So when are you going to share your next creative recording extravaganza sometime soon?
Oh, let's hope it's in the next couple of weeks, but I could sing something for you now, Greg, if you really want me to.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, you're like, oh no, she's going to sing now. Okay.
That's right. Well, with
You can edit this out
I
later.
would, that's kind of what I've expected.
So I'm not going to sing one of my originals. What's coming to mind is this song, Rule the World. You light the sky up above you. A star so bright you blind me. Don't close your eyes, don't fade away, don't fade away. Yeah, you and me, we can ride on a star. If you stay with me now, we can rule the world. Yeah, you and me, we can light up the sky. If you stay by my side, we can rule the world. If stars break down, I will comfort you. If angels cry, I will be there for you. You saved my soul. Don't leave me now. Don't leave me now. Yeah, you and me, we can ride on a star. If you stay with me now, we can rule the world. Yeah, you and me, we can light up the sky. If you stay by my side, we can rule the world.
That's beautiful. And I think we can leave that as our last word.
Thank you for having me, Greg, and thank you for everyone
Thank you
who
for being
stayed to the end to hear me sing.
here.